Hello and welcome everyone to the Conversational AI Chatbot Showcase with our partners Blackbox and Cognigy. My name is Mark Hamill. I'm the CEO of Architect Global, and we look forward to a very exciting session today. Quick run through the agenda. There's going to be an introduction from myself, and I'll pass over to our speakers, Thijs Waanders and JD Ackley. And JD is going to take through a bit about the conversational AI trends and use cases that he's seen in the market. And then there's going to be a deep dive into Cognigy with case study and demo as well. And after that, it's all about you. It's about answering any of the questions that you may have. And really, all I would ask is until the Q&A to keep yourself on mute, and we will come to you at the end. But any questions you might have in advance of the Q&A section, please put them in the chat. And this event is part of our promotion for the Cognigy Conversational AI Roadshow, which is taking place in Dallas next month on September 13th and 14th. For any of you in the United States or even more locally in the Texas or Dallas-Fort Worth area, if there's any interest in this, please feel free to reach out to me afterwards. And if you're not in the US or in or in other parts of the world, you can always reach out to me as well, or Thijs or JD. So it's not just for those that are in the US. This is very much an international event with people dialing in from all over the world. So without any further delay, I'm going to pass you over to Thijs Waanders, VP of AI Transformation, to give a brief intro before he passes over to JD Ackley from Blackbox. Over to you, Thijs.
Thanks, Mark. Very happy to be here, everyone. Thanks for joining. So yeah, Thijs, my name, dialing in from Holland today. I lead pre-sales and consulting at Cognigy. Been with Cognigy for more than 5 years now. Conversational AI startup from Germany, or scale up by now, I think we can say. And yeah, very much looking forward to showing you a demo and some slides later on. With that, I'll hand to JD.
Unmute JD.
And you're still muted.
Of course, not without a hitch.
That happened at least once.
So, wonderful, thank you. Thanks, Thijs. So JD Ackley with Blackbox. I am the global CX solutions development manager here, and I oversee really Blackbox's development of what we're doing, where we're going with our CX practice, especially as it relates to AI and how we're bringing in the new to our CX customers throughout the world. So I am in the Chicagoland area now. I reside in Barcelona and oversee all the markets here for Blackbox with what we're doing in conversational AI, enabling our CX customers.
Great, thanks, JD. And in terms of an intro for the trends that you see in the market, it's really over to you to see what you see.
Excellent, thanks, Mark. Yep. From a trends perspective, I think we're really at the dawn of Bot 2.0. I think there are many customers in the market that in conversation say that yes, we have a bot, we've done something in the marketplace, we've tried something, but it's typically something disjointed, something that's left them a bit unhappy with the experience. It typically winds up being the different parts within the IT organization or the business have brought in a bot of different fashions. Typically, it starts off on the web page as something from a self-service perspective. But it's not an experience that have left them wowed or anything that's really been
It's cut out there, JD. I think just to the last couple of sentences. Live demonstrations, of course.
As always.
There we go. You're back.
Everything down. Yeah. So as I was saying, we're really at the dawn of Bot 2.0. So we've seen bots been deployed by various parts within businesses there from different parts of the organizations, but there hasn't been a concerted effort to bring something centralized to the organization. So there's been attempts to bring in a bot to answer web chat. There's been attempts to answer, various channels like WhatsApp and Messenger and other one-off bot deployments that have taken place through the marketplace that have left an underwhelming experience. Most folks say, yeah, we have a bot, but that seems to be where the conversation's gone. So at this stage, it feels that we're ready for bots that don't suck. We have had a bit of uptake of interest with generative AI and the explosion of generative AI in the in the mainstream at the moment, right? Everyone wants to understand what the tool is going to do, what it can do. There's certainly a lot of hype around that it solves everything, can do everything, but that's not the case. Conversational AI is more mature. Conversational AI has been around for some time. It is able to really get down to what our customers want to have in a conversational interaction with a business. With that, and what Cognigy has done, they have really expanded what we can do, bringing conversational AI to do transactional work with organizations and bring that the ability to provide empathy, to provide deep understanding with what generative AI can bring to an understanding, to a conversation. And Thijs will take a little deeper dive in that in his demo. Now, from a use case perspective, I'd say it really hits on three portions there. It starts with the IVA, the Intelligent Virtual Assistant. That is certainly one of the main front doors for people looking to introduce conversational AI into their organization, as well as self-service. There is a great ability to deliver self-service in a conversational way with our customers. And last, I'm seeing a lot of virtual assistants in the contact center. So to start from the last first there, from the virtual agent perspective, we're seeing a lot of contact centers that are using the summary and sentiment capabilities of generative AI. So bringing that into the conversation, working with agents, it has done several things. So one, it shortens the ramp cycle for new agents. Customer or agent churn is certainly a difficult part for any contact center to manage, to bring in good agents, to have them ramped up and knowledgeable about your product and brand. With the ability to bring a virtual agent to sit alongside of an agent, it superpowers them and enables them to really stay on brand message, to be closer to what your brand does. And it's allowed these agents to cut down the time for average handle significantly. So when there are multiple platforms that are needing to be accessed for an agent to get relevant information for a customer, with the ability, the generative AI, to bring in those various bits of information throughout the company, it certainly helps with that handle time and allows for greater customer satisfaction to get them the information they need very quickly. So the virtual agent aspect has really interested a lot of customers, and there is a lot of exploration to understand that. A great piece of the virtual assistant is it allows you to really rapid embrace where you are from a technology perspective. So with the virtual assistant, the existing infrastructure that you currently have servicing the contact center and providing the plumbing for routing and for the queuing and messaging and reporting that you already have, by bringing in a virtual agent, it sits over top and it allows you to enable what the contact center is doing, or to really enable the agents without having a lot of disruption there. So it allows us to bring in the latest generative AI assistance and conversational AI fulfillment to an existing contact center without a lot of disruption. Next would really be the virtual or intelligent virtual assistants. And that's in the vein of displacing what we typically thought of IVRs, the front door self-service aspect of an organization, to transform that from something that could have been rather rudimentary with voice, or something that was using even DTMF tones to guide someone to the self-service portion within your company that you want them to get to, moving that to a conversation, being able to answer a myriad of questions versus a very scripted and tight, short amount of questions that you can relay this information. So the IVA portion of bot servicing our customers is really shows extremely rapid return on that investment and turning that around with self-service to the customers. And last would be the self-service aspect, right? The conversational AI allows us to fulfill the specific requests with customer information. So the ability to converse with the self-service bot to pull out information, be it your flight information or a status of a shipment or status of a return or something in the retail space. A lot of capabilities with conversational AI to provide that self-service and really enable the gathering of the information right to the from across your organization, right? I think that's the difficult part, is how do we connect all these platforms back together? And using AI, we can have very rapid response and correct information and have it in a way that we don't have to build very specific flows. We can allow the conversational aspect for a customer to speak, as they would naturally to pull in that self-service information and to get them where they need to go. So that's really what we're seeing in the marketplace right now, with uptake and where use cases are really going right now. And we have some really exciting things happening with generative AI, and being able to bring that in to the conversation and provide that self-service, and the amount of empathy it can pull into a conversation is amazing. So to show a little bit of that, I'll turn it over to Thijs to take a look at what Cognigy is doing in the conversational AI space.
Great, thanks, JD. So let me share my screen. So I brought some slides today, and then can get that screen share going, and something should pop up now, I think, for hopefully most of you.
Seems to be working now, Liz.
Yeah. Does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So I'll start with a quote. Yeah, let me see if I can actually get the slides going. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I'll start with a quote from Mark Benioff, right, CEO of Salesforce, and this whole generative AI hype, in my mind, is more than just a hype, right? There's technology that comes and goes, and I think generative AI is here to stay, right? And the interesting aspect with generative AI is that it's incredibly flexible, right? You can use it for text, you can use it for speech. There's all sorts of text-to-speech vendors popping up now with lifelike voices. There's digital avatars, and all of that is going to dramatically impact, customer experience, for one. And if we look at what it means for us, specifically, and JD already mentioned it, I like that term, right? One of the most concrete examples is that chatbots don't longer need to suck, right? Most of them still do, because they're still built using I would say classical NLU, right? And there's a good reason for that, right? It has to do a lot with being able to control the output. Generative AI can hallucinate, but I think that you'll start to see a lot of these experiences, a lot of these chatbot experiences, dramatically improve over the coming months. We, for sure, with our customers, see that everyone's looking at it right now. There's very few live yet, right? But everyone's looking at it right now, and it just has a lot of traction. So excellent customer service is what we'll hopefully finally reach after all these years of false promises. There's limitations though, right? And JD already mentioned that before. There's a couple of things that generative AI in this space is incredibly good at. Let's start with that, and then we'll look at the gap as well, right? The first thing is that it's really good at human language. It masters human language, right? It's essentially an autocomplete engine that is incredibly advanced, right? And it means that you don't need to train it yourself, for it to come up with common knowledge, right, and common information. And it has an understanding of the world as well, right? It can understand context. It can understand who's who in a sentence, and that's a very powerful mechanism. This is an example of that reasoning, right? So a very typical example in chatbots is you mention something, right? And then the customer asks a follow-up question, or the bot maybe asks a follow-up question, right? And then the customer references to that thing that was mentioned before, right? And the bot goes, I don't know what you're talking about, right? Because the right keywords just weren't mentioned anymore. This is a good example you see here, right? The robot tried to carry the box through the door, but it was too big. What are we talking about? The robot, right? Or the box, or the door, right? So, and this is something that's, it's very subtle, but it has a lot of impact. And then finally, we deliberately phrase it like this, it can pretend empathy, right? This, of course, is incredibly important in customer experience, and we'll see that in the demo as well. It's not just the fact that it can, react better. A classical chatbot, right? If you get in and you say, look, I need to cancel my flight because of a family emergency, right? And then a classical chatbot would be hard-coded with an answer. It would go, great, I can help you change your flight, right? That's not great, right? So you want it to be able to adapt, and for that, it needs to understand empathy, right? So all of this is now possible. Everything is solved. Not really, right? There's a gap, and the obvious gap here is that it's not aware of your knowledge, and it's not just your knowledge in the sense that you have maybe a Chat GPT plugin, right? That you can fetch some knowledge from an API. It's more than that. It's not aware of your ecosystem. It doesn't know your channels, your systems. It doesn't know your ERP. It doesn't know your order APIs, right? And all of that stuff needs to come together. And that's what we're trying to solve here. That is what we, I guess, are solving here, right? So we have a conversational AI platform. There's channels that we plug into, right? And then there's business systems that we plug into this conversational AI platform. And then there's cognitive services, as we call them, right? So you need more than just a channel. If you want to do contact center bots, you want to do voice bots, as JD mentioned, right? You need to have speech to text. You need to have text to speech, and you might need more than one, right? Because some of those would support certain languages. Latency is incredibly important. You also need stuff like translation services, right? Maybe biometrical stuff. Maybe you want to authenticate someone, right, using their voice. These are all services that need to be taken into account if you really want to reach this, this amazing potential. And then what we do is we help, not just, we don't just help you connect to all of these services, right? But we have a native integration with not just one, but multiple LLM vendors, and therefore with many models that you can then selectively use to orchestrate all of this, right? So a concrete example, and we'll get to the demo, is someone might come in on WhatsApp, right? Or let's say Facebook Messenger. We first need to understand that format, right? And we get that message, then we run it through an NLU, and then maybe we ask an LLM, maybe we ask a GPT, Da Vinci, right, to interpret that request, right, and to help us formulate an answer. But maybe we want to formulate that answer based on the customer status that we got from Salesforce, from the CRM, right? So plugging all of that together and making it work in conjunction with very low latency, that's what we're trying to solve here. If you look at an application of this, so I brought a demo. I hope the audio share will work, because we had some issues with that before. If it doesn't, Mark can jump in. I hope with a version, and then I'll continue after. So what we're showing in this demo is a lot of these services coming together, right? We'll start with an intelligent virtual assistant that uses TTS, the latest and greatest in text to speech, so it sounds very natural. We'll then, help the user do some sort of, do a qualification and a form of self-service, right? And then we'll then hand over to a human agent in the contact center, and then we'll still have the AI in the loop to help that human agent in real time in the contact center as well. So let's see if this works.
Welcome to Cognigy Outdoors. My name is Sarah.
Does it work?
I am an AI agent, and I am here to route you to the right person. What can we do for you today?
Hi, Sarah. I purchased a Trailblaze jacket a few months ago, and unfortunately the zipper is damaged. So I was wondering if I could get a refund for it. Do you know if it's covered under the warranty?
I'm sorry to hear about the issue with your jacket. We take pride in the quality of our products, and I will connect you with my colleague who can help you get this resolved. To better assist you, could you please provide me with your first and last name and the order number?
Sure. My name is Olivia McGee. That's spelled McGee. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure about the order number.
Okay, no worries. Could you provide me with your date of birth instead?
Sure. It's December 23rd, 1980.
Thank you. Is this about your last order? The Trailblaze outdoor jacket for $169.99.
Yes, that's the one.
Got it. I have all I need and will now connect you with my colleague.
Great, thanks.
Hi, Olivia. Thanks for holding. My name is Alex, and I see that you have a question about the warranty of your Trailblaze jacket since the zipper broke.
Hi, Alex. Yes, I purchased the jacket only a few months ago, and I really would have expected it to last for a couple more years.
Sorry to hear that, Olivia. Let's see if we can get this resolved for you as soon as possible. Could you send me a picture of the damage so that we can assess the situation?
Sure, I can do that. How should I send the picture?
Great. I'll send you an SMS with a link to the webpage where you can take a picture of the damaged zipper and upload it. Please keep your phone nearby. All right, the link has been sent. Once you upload the picture, please let me know so that I can confirm receipt.
All right, give me a second here. And there we go. And I've taken the picture and uploaded it, and it should be set now.
Thanks for sending the picture. Let me check to make sure that we've received it. Yes, I see the image now. Thanks for providing that. Please allow me to assess the picture. Just a moment, please.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks, Olivia. Based on the assessment of the damage, we can offer you either a replacement jacket or a refund. Which option would you prefer?
I would prefer a refund.
I understand. I apologize for the inconvenience it's caused. As a gesture of goodwill, we would like to offer you a digital gift card that you could use for another purchase on our website or at one of our authorized retailers. Would that be acceptable to you?
That sounds really great. I appreciate the offer.
I will generate a digital gift card for you right away. Could you please provide me with your email address? I will send it directly to your inbox.
Sure. My email address is o.mcgee@gmail.com.
Thanks, Olivia. I have sent the digital gift card to your email address. Please check your inbox. If you have any further questions or need assistance, feel free to reach out. We value you as a customer and appreciate your support.
Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate your help and the prompt resolution.
You're welcome, Olivia. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
Actually, yes, one more question. I will be on vacation in Europe next week. So can I also use the gift card abroad?
Let me check that for you. One moment. Okay, yes, gift cards are valid globally. They do expire after 12 months.
Great. Thanks again, Alex. Have a great day.
You too, Olivia. Goodbye.
Bye.
And now we have the auto wrap up kick in. So this is the AI writing a summary of the conversation as it happened, right? Using GPT. And then we create a case in Salesforce in the background using our standard integration with Salesforce CRM, right? And then everything is done. Customer happy, agent happy. So I'll talk a little bit more about what we saw here in terms of, we'll get to the components in just a bit and how you build something like this, right? But first want to address the strategy that we have here. So what's happening from a UX point of view? And obviously we have Olivia call in, right? And then the first thing that happens is that the AI, the virtual agent, qualifies the call. And this seems like a first step. But this is very, very impactful. We have many customers that have voice use cases where the one thing that the AI really does is just route the conversation to the right agent, and it just asks one or two questions before doing that, right? And that's an incredible improvement if you compare it to a classical IVR. Press 1 for this, press 2 for this, right? Because these IVR trees, they tend to get huge, right? And with intent mapping, with AI, you can simply ask, what is it that the user wants? You do a qualification. Do you have maybe it's a healthcare, provider on insurance, right? You have Medicare, right? If yes, what's your zip code, right? And then we route it to the right agent in the right state, right? Because maybe there's different regulations in different states. That's a huge problem that we solve with something that is relatively simple from an AI point of view. And then the next thing is actually pulling all of the information from the CRM, making sure, and in this case, you saw that the AI actually pulled up the order, right? So this could come from an ERP system, for example, and then checks that with the customer. And then one of the unique things that we offer with our conversational AI platform is what we call X-apps. So this is the ability to, while staying on a session, right, to branch into a different modality, another modality, right, and then unite that with that session. So in this case, AI asked Olivia, say, can you provide me with a picture of that zipper, right, that broken zipper? And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because otherwise you had to explain it and maybe look up more information. And the great thing is that the AI stayed on the call, right? That's the cool thing. We could do the same thing with the agent. And then once that was done, we see that organization took part, right, of the call so far, and then the agent basically got a warm handover. So you saw initially in the demo that there was a nice summary of the call so far. The bot basically said, "Hey, I already qualified the caller, right? There's no need to do like a super extensive identification or verification process anymore. You can just get, to the topic at hand." And so essentially the AI primed the human agent before the handover took place. So one word on those X apps, right? Because they're a new feature that we have in the platform, and we're seeing that our customers are coming up with ideas. They go like, would this be possible as well? Where we go, we didn't even think of that, right? So a simple example could be, of course, well, we have an insurance company as a customer, right? They provide assistance. So someone calls and they need to say where they are when they have issues with the car. The car doesn't drive anymore. It's next to the highway. Where are you, right? You probably don't really know where you are, right? So the very simple thing that they implemented in this pilot project is they send an X app that opens a Google Maps widget, right? An X app is nothing you need to install. It's just a web app. So you get a text message, you click on the link, poof, X app opens, it's automatically synced with the voice call, right? And then you just allow the location in the browser, and boom, the agent knows where you are, problem solved, right? Another one is just signing documents. Another one is using a single sign-on provider. You already have a Microsoft account, or log in with your Google. So a lot of possibilities in that regard. We look at the components that made up the assist experience. I already mentioned this one, the generated summary that we have here, right? But you also see a very nice timeline because we have full access to the conversation transcript, right? So the bot can literally tell the agent what happened before. But we also saw that Olivia had one more question towards the end, right? And this is where we do a knowledge search. And that's the whole topic on it, by itself. It's super, super interesting. But what it basically does is it allows us to not just find the right piece of information, but to then use GPT to extract the exact answer to a question in the context of that conversation, right? So if there's a yes/no question, GPT will answer, yes, this is possible, instead of just showing a knowledge article, right? Like most agent assist solutions do, and the agent still needs to read through it, and oh boy, there's 2 articles, right? With this, we do the search, it's vector search, semantic search, so LLM powered search, and we do the prompting on top that gives you that gives the agent the right answer, right? And this has a lot of impact. We see that almost all of the agent assist use cases just start with this. This one thing is incredibly impactful already. And then last but not as mentioned, right, we can do an auto wrap up, and we can create cases in CRM systems. Could be Salesforce, could be Zendesk, could be a custom API, right? It's the same thing to us. So getting back to the overview that we have here, all of this is of course really, really cool, right? It's really not, but there's a lot to it, right? So from a platform point of view, we tie all of this together. But from a development point of view, it's more than just that. It's doing it in a low code fashion, right? So what that means is that you don't just have all of the integrations done, right? We already integrated the LLM models for you, the different versions, right? You don't need to write custom API. It's productized. The same with the channels and the business systems. But it's available in a low-code environment, which means that something like prompt chaining, which is a whole new thing, right? You combine different LLMs, is something that becomes very easy to combine with Salesforce, right? Because there's a node for that, right? So we can literally do something like this, where you ask the bot, to classify the sentiment, and then based on the sentiment, you want to maybe do something different. If the customer is super upset, you might want to hand over to an agent right away, right? You don't want the customer to continue with a self-service process that would potentially only lead to more frustration, right? So this is how you would approach a very impactful scenario like that with just a couple of nodes in a flow editor. And then, of course, as mentioned, all of this is wrapped into a local platform. There's a lot more to it. Happy to show you if you're interested. But I wanted to mention one more thing, and I just wanted to talk about a customer reference. So one of our largest customers is Lufthansa, right, or the Lufthansa Group, German airline. It's not just Lufthansa; it's Swiss Airlines, it's Austrian Airlines, and Lufthansa itself, of course. And Lufthansa had a huge problem during COVID, as many airlines had. There were a lot of flight cancellations. Then in Germany, there were a lot of strikes happening on top of that, right? All of the ground personnel, all the staff was striking throughout Europe, right? So what Lufthansa had to do, they were confronted with a situation where all of their self-service channels were just overloaded, and the standard FAQs, the standard help center articles, they just didn't really apply anymore because they weren't transactional, right? And this is the thing that JD referred to in the beginning as well. Is these things, they are impactful and they're meaningful when they can transact, when they can do something, can actually solve something. I mean, yes, an FAQ is great. This is a great interface for an FAQ, especially with all of the LLM where you can formulate an exact answer. But you should go the next step, right? You should hook it up to your systems and make sure that it can actually solve something for a customer. So one of the first processes that Lufthansa automated is a flight rebooking. My flight got canceled, right? What do I do? There's web forms for that. You need to Google that. Is this the right one? Or you go to the chatbot, right? It's connected to Amadeus, to the flight system, right? In real time, you can retrieve a flight booking, and you can then rebook directly in this virtual agent. And it's very successful. It does, at peak times, it does thousands of rebookings. In parallel, it handles a lot of traffic every year, and it's one of the key customers that we have, in terms of platform utilization. They just make great use of the platform, including all of the different versions of a bot in different locales for different brands without rebuilding all of the flows. So that's what I had for you today. Very much looking forward to your questions and to hopefully a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thijs. I appreciate it. And whilst you were talking, there were some questions that were coming in already, and in particular from Marcos. And I guess just to paraphrase the first two questions that you had, Marcos, was very much about almost human agents versus AI chatbots. And I hope as that demonstration went on, you saw that it wasn't just one or the other. It's very much how the AI chatbots can support the agents. So I know, JD, you have a lot to say on this matter as well, in terms of how the AI can augment what the agents are doing. But yeah, would you like to perhaps get started in those two questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as displacing, I think that is strongly not the recommended move at this point. I've certainly, as you alluded to, am a proponent to augmentation, right? How can we self-service to the point of comfort for the customer, and then bring in augmentation that we can, superpower, enable the agent base, right? How do we bring the relevant information to bring it to the customer and still have them served in the mode they want? Early on, in Thijs's case, early on in COVID, we had an overwhelming amount of self-service necessity. There were just not agents able to come to the office, lots of uncertainty, lots of questions, lots of people reaching out. So we were truly forged in fire to really get this right and to perfect that there. And early use cases, the thought was we would completely move things into the self-service space with voice bots, and everything would be merry. And they saw dramatic gains. They were able to, book rebooking, self-service with problems with network providers. We saw the full gambit of, use cases during the pandemic. And what we saw was, at first it was only the capability of having the automated agents, right? And then as agents started to come back, they thought they would lose the self-service they were capturing with automation, right? And some customers were hesitant to open the agent access back up. But what we found was, there's always going to be a certain amount that want to speak to only a human, and they don't want to be bothered. But we saw a lot of opportunity, or we saw a lot of uptake in customer acceptance when they went the route of presenting the options like, hello, I'm your virtual agent. I'm here to help as I can. But if we need to speak to a human, they're certainly available. So that augmentation, what we saw was actually more acceptance of the virtual bot and people willing to give it a try. When you have a very good experience like this Cognigy bot, people are very happy to provide self-service in that mode if that's available to them. So that was a long-winded way to say that we certainly see a lot of customers going the augmentation and the complementary effect of having both conversational AI augment the agents. That's what we see in the marketplace.
Brilliant. Thanks, JD. And Thijs, would you like to add to that?
Well, the only thing I would add is that, I worked in a contact center before when I was studying, right? And the questions you get, I would say 70%, 80% are, very similar questions. It's always the same. Where can I find his phone number? Oh, let me reconnect you. In a telco, it's like, okay, if you try to turn your phone off and on, right? It really is like that. That's what most requests are about. And that's kind of the thing that we're targeting with automation, right? So that when a call does come through to me as an agent, right?
Mhm.
I have the time, to focus on it and to actually help the customer, right? Because I have fewer calls and therefore less pressure, right? I can really dive deep and make sure that we resolve the issue at hand.
Excellent. And the third question that Marcos had was, is there a calibration loop built into the client's AI's instance so the AI can still deliver great quality and the client keeps the AI aligned to the experience and the quality they want to deliver? I guess that's the keeping it on track with the conversational AI. Is that what you're referring to, Marcos?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, AI is only as good as the information that's fed in. And, as long as you're kind of like having a human calibration or some kind of calibration to keep it aligned with where you want it to be. So it's providing the right answers, it's providing the right experience back to customers. How does that quality assurance built in the life cycle of the client using the AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's different strategies to that, right? If you go for it like an agent assisted approach, like the one that we saw in the contact center, the agent is always in the loop, like literally, right? So the agent's sitting there, the AI pops up a suggested reply, right? We kind of consolidated in a demo, of course, but you can show a bit more of that article, right? So the agent always has the ability to say, hey, this looks off. This doesn't look like the right answer, right? So the agent can always jump in and simply not say what the AI is suggesting. In terms of having a more of a self-service experience or an autonomous AI, right, where you have a voice bot or a chat bot answering the customer directly, there's like basically a process that you have before you go live with it. So you'd have some sort of curation. You make sure that you train it well. You release it with a focus group. You go through all of those all of these conversations that took place, right, and then you refine it. And then there's also the option where you can have the audience basically rate the answer, right? So you can say like, okay, this is a good answer. This did not live up to my expectations. And then based on that, you can look into it even after the bot is live. So the one thing I'll add is that with generative AI, right, there is right now at least always the risk that that the bot would output something that is maybe not in line with what you wanted to say, right? And that's part of the nature of how generative AI works. There's still some hallucination going on, which is why we see this agent assist use case being so popular right now, because you always have the agent in the loop. Yeah.
And
Did I answer your question, Margaret? Yeah, go ahead.
From a technical perspective, Marcos, was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, process and technical. Obviously AI is supposed to learn and get better, but at the same time, having a human intervention, human interaction that kind of keeps it on the straight and narrow, so to speak, I believe is important. And I wanted to know how you guys incorporated that into your solutions and thoughts.
Yeah, so I would absolutely say that's very important, and that's certainly the sweet spot of black box. So Cognigy is the software vendor. They've made all this beautiful software. And Blackbox is the integrator at the end of the day, right? So we have the consultative team and the managed services that we would wrap around a product like this. So from consulting and delivery on the front end to continuing support and a program around that with our customer success managers, there's a whole new cottage industry around this technology, right? From conversational architects to prompt engineering to just great contact center experience. That's what Blackbox brings to the table to make sure you're getting the most out of these tools. There are a lot of advancements. Obviously it's almost daily, it feels like, with where the technology is going. So with a partner like Blackbox for delivery and consulting, we can wrap in a program that would meet your needs to do technology reviews, make sure we're getting out of it what the business is trying to solve, and to stay on top of that and keep it relevant with you and your team.
Thumbs up. Great. Thanks, JD and Thijs and Marcos. And we've got a great question from Ben. I think a lot of us will have been thinking about this as well. So can you share an example for call routing by name? Callers often mispronounce when they're speaking to an agent, and speech to text has a challenge with identifying language differences. Like an American caller asking for a German Lufthansa representative is the example. Do you have any insights on that, Thijs?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of this has to do with, basically just having a good conversation design strategy, right? So the way, so first name, last name with speech to text is incredibly hard, right? Speech to, there's so many names, right? Could be spelled in many different ways. So the trick really is to have a point of reference, so maybe the incoming phone number, right? So if someone's calling from the contact center, we can get the phone number and already have a context at hand for the speech to text engine. So what we do is we pull a record from the CRM, and then we tell the STT engine, the speech to text engine, in real time, this is probably one of the names to expect. And what happens then is that it can dynamically adapt, and then it gets these names right? Not all of the time. You always need to have a fallback, right? There's also stuff like spelling and phonetics, all of that's possible, but the main strategy is to just be clever with giving the STT a context when it comes to first and last name.
And I would layer on the flexibility of the Cognigy platform, right? We've found certain engines work well for certain bits of information. Some work better in the medical field. Some work better for pulling addresses. And the beauty of Cognigy is we can bring in different platforms. So we know in working in the Middle East, some are better with different Arabic and Indian dialects. We can pull those tools in, and allows us to be very flexible with that. So I certainly agree that the good engineering to lead them to to a good place to get the answers you're looking for is paramount there. But voice is hard. I mean, at the end of the day, let's be frank that voice is hard. And being a market leader like Cognigy is, it's certainly where we see them shine. The ability to discern, understand, use their voice gateways to pull that out and get that into whatever the speech text engine is. It is certainly hard, and it is certainly why Cognigy is a market leader in the space with their ability to do it so well.
Great, thanks, gents, and thanks for the question, Ben. Are there any industries that you would say that are excelling in this space as well? Or is there any ones that stand out? I know you've got some great examples from many industries, Thijs, but is there any industry you would say is really racing to the top?
Yeah, sure. So we're seeing a lot of like industries where there's a lot of administrative work, a lot of looking up information, qualifying stuff. So healthcare for sure, insurance definitely is an industry, but the same goes for travel, right? So we already saw at Lufthansa, we have more airlines as customers. There's a reason for that, right? They tend to have high volumes. They tend to have well, let's say real time is very well suited for, you need to have a quick interaction. You want to have something that responds very quickly. You don't always want to wait for an agent. So that's definitely one that we see as well. Yeah. JD, how about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, from verticals, we're certainly seeing it across all the verticals right now with interest. But I would go back to what you said about authentication and identity management, right? Within that part of the call, it is very low hanging fruit. When you're looking at a call that can be 3 to 5 minutes, and over a minute is authenticating the your customer and client and trying to figure out where they need to even get to. The ability to have a bot do that versus agents do that just saves tremendously. It's a very hard ROI. So I would say not vertical specific, but certainly contact center specific. We've seen a lot in the identification and authentication, being able to lock even 15, 20% conservatively off easily provides a really hard ROI. And that's where customers, investigate very first. So I would say from the verification and authentication is probably across the board, across the verticals, really keen on everyone's plate right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I guess like one of the things that I've seen is as well, which is across the board, is overcoming those people that have said, as you said, Thijs, we've tried a chatbot, we've tried AI, and we're talking sort of 5 years ago. Certainly from my time in the Middle East, there was a very large bank which tried something probably about 5 years ago, and I think it was only 20% accurate, something like that. And that's put off the whole region almost. And Ladislaw, I saw you nodding there. You can agree with that. So yeah, how do you overcome that when it comes to speaking to clients? And what would you say? If anyone says, "Oh, we tried it," and yeah, why would we try it again?
Yeah, I would say where I see a lot of difficulties is they were very siloed and not deployed from a holistic business perspective, right? It was a web team coming up with something cheap and easy to answer their FAQs and make the experience a little better. But there's no one looking from the business perspective. So with Chatbots 2.0, I guess we'll coin that as a term here, the ability to have consistency across the channels with one bot and one interaction that is able to converse across all the channels. So the same interactions, the same responses you're getting from a web chat or maybe a chat on your mobile app or directly through SMS, WhatsApp, Messenger, those different pieces there. The consistency is really key, and that escalates all the way through to the same responses that the voice bot has. So I would say that the initial difficulties of them being very siloed, having limited capabilities, and not solving holistic business problems. Where we're at today is we look at how do we provide consistency, how do we make them be multimodal, because they scale really well to that point. We might start off in a web chat and a self-service through a website and show them how much better that experience could be, and then they bring that right into the voice platform with what their contact center agents are doing, and they see just dramatic improvements there. So, yeah, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and I suppose that feeds.
Okay, I was muted.
The
one thing I just wanted to
add, yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I just wanted to add is that I think that what we and JD alluded to that, at the beginning of his session, his presentation, he basically said. There's a move going on where pretty much everyone tried out chatbots, right? And they're now they're more professional about it, right? And I think that's where we see it a lot as well. All of a sudden these projects get a lot bigger, the RFPs get a lot bigger, right? The scope is bigger, but the approach is a lot more professional as well. And realize hey, this is not something we can solve with our own internal team, right? You need an SI, you need to take it seriously, right? Because it's all low code and it's all AI and it sounds fantastic, right? But it does mean that you need to make sure that all of that is exposed, that it's hooked up, right? That the people are enabled. There's a lot of change management, that needs to happen. You need to train the intents and all of that stuff, right? So that's definitely something that we see as well. It's not just a bot anymore. It's there larger initiatives than that, right? Mm-hmm. that we now see in the market, and that's where Blackbox. That's where SIs are just incredibly important. It's the holistic approach, if you will, right? It's not just building an NLU or not just building a flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Tyson. And a great question from Matt as well, just following on from that. I think we touched on it slightly, but very explicitly, do the features and benefits translate over to inbound email channels? I guess that's one for you, JD, to explain.
Yeah. Say it again. Go ahead, Tyson.
Do the features, so great example with regards to voice and telephony channels, but do the features and benefits we've been speaking about translate over to inbound emails? So email is a channel, is that something?
Absolutely. So it's completely consistent across every channel, right? So we can have it attached to an email routing engine and serve up those answers, summarize, and pull that information into our CRMs and our service platforms. So yeah, just email is another very simple channel for us to bring in and to provide that consistency. So what they would see over SMS through web chatting translates and is consistent across email and escalating all the way to voice.
Yeah, and that's where we saw, generative AI play a huge, or email is one of the channels of generative AI that has a huge impact, right? Because an email typically does not have one intent or one topic, it tends to be more, right? And we're seeing that the channel has always been very easy to hook up, right? But we're now seeing that detecting multiple intents, coming up with a natural answer, including multiple topics, right? That's something that's now possible as well. Yeah, so we see a lot of customers apply that.
And I'll add still another great point where we can have agent augmentation. It doesn't have to be a completely self-service. You get an email and you spit back out an email. The ability to receive that email and have 95% of it written, 99% of that written, and have an agent go through, make sure it's in the right narrative for what you're trying to say to the customer, that it's appropriate empathy and tone, because there's still concerns with generative AI, and the approach that we're taking is let's make sure we have a brand ambassador, an agent, look over that, make sure it's consistent of what you're trying to say, and send that out. So the ability to summarize that information and contain that, to provide reporting, to understand what your customers are asking about, what their sentiment and intent is, getting that into leads or service tickets or whatever that needs to be within your management systems, provide consistent reporting. But then have that ability to still oversee it and get that email out is a great tool as well.
Was that helpful, Matt, or any other questions on that?
Yeah, it was helpful. And I do feel like that answer was, frankly, email channel is easy compared to voice. But the other question I had that I didn't put in the chat is, everything looked pretty native on the example that you guys provided. But what I'm seeing in the slide that you guys presented, and full disclosure, I snipped it so I could understand it better. You're connecting to the contact center voice or contact center management software. And so are all of these platforms built in a way that would accommodate the additional UI that's created by having Cognigy be able to kind of provide those answers to the agent, provide examples? Everything on the slide, I assume it works that way, but
yeah, that's a great question. What we saw in the demo was AXP, right? So the CCaaS that Avaya has. The solution is contact center agnostic. To your point, these workspaces typically exist already, right? It's been, typically in customer services, there's been a lot of focus and a lot of thought put into specific workspace layouts with CRM integrations and all of that. Of course, for the demo that we showed, we took all of that screen real estate, right? We said, okay, let's spawn a Cognigy experience, and these are all the things that you could do, right? In reality, for some brands that is reality, right? But what we see more often is that you start with a smaller widget, right? That you just pop into the workspace or in the CRM. The contact center very, very often does the routing, and the CRM is the agent interface, right? And then that widget just does a sentiment analysis, or it does knowledge search, right? It just shows an answer to the agent. And that's what the assist does as a first step. That's what it is. You don't have to disrupt all the workspace, right? The agents don't have to relearn everything. Just one small widget is typically enough to have a lot of impact. Yeah.
Yep. So very much in that rapid embrace strategy, right? We start with a small widget. Cognigy integrates with all the leading CCaaS platforms out there, all the leading CRMs and knowledge management platforms out there. They have, a strength is they have well over 100 built-in connectors that they've vetted and have there in their marketplace that we can connect and bring in. But it's certainly we start small. We provide a lot of impact with what we can do and help that. And it's very much, all the contact center desktops are very much widget based right now. So we can bring and push, whatever information over API calls we need and push that in there. And then it's very fluid as that matures. It might be as the very mature example that Thijs showed, where it's very much all the interaction, right? So all those widgets are driven by AI interactions, but very flexible. It starts as small as necessary to start providing some impact, and then just continues to grow.
That was a great answer, and thank you for understanding my question. That was perfect. But that helps too. So I understand that what we saw isn't necessarily phase one or generation one of this. That would be as far as you can get. I mean, and maybe it expands in a week. It'll be farther and farther. But the example you showed from Avaya there and their works, how it's integrated is the vision for what we would hope to achieve long term, but maybe not necessarily day one.
Absolutely. Yep. The art of the possible is what we were trying to show, how far it could possibly go. But I would say the uptake is typically, sentiment analysis, some agent assist, knocking into those or unlocking connections into the knowledge bases and the various platforms. What winds up happening is not just a knowledge base, it winds up being 4 or 5 different platforms. A customer would have to look up for appointments, would have to look up for billing policies. It might be another system for back ends that, it could gather all that into one widget and grow it from there.
Yeah. And it kind of, I see that Marcus wrote a question in chat as well, right? Basically saying it's like, hey, is that, having so much going on in the agent workspace, doesn't that distract or annoy the agent, even? And that's definitely a fair point, right? Like what we see with agents is they're really good at what they do. They often know better than the AI, right? Especially at the start of a project. And they're very outspoken in terms of what they need, right? It's like, don't get in the way too much, right? But show me the right information at the right point. Or, as JD mentioned, there's maybe 3 tabs that are open, right? And they're essentially 3 knowledge bases that should really be one knowledge base. Maybe the AI can just search through those 3 knowledge bases and present that in a small widget. That would be great. If you could do that, right, that would help a lot. Right? So that's what we see in actual pilot projects.
I've got time for one last question, which is an important one as well, Thijs. So sorry to interrupt you there. Which is from Ragna. So are you able to support several brands under one flow? Imagine you support several customers with one bot. So bearing in mind, we've got 60 seconds left to answer this.
Yeah. I'll just say yes. It's one of our core features. It's what we're really good at, to make that really simple with one flow, many channels, many different versions of the same bot. Yes.
And that's a very good point. The centralization of it allows you to have a lot of return on what you put into that bot building. There's a lot of thought that goes into how that flow looks and how you want to respond to your customers. So the ability to centralize that, have one with many answers, many channels, many responses, but have brand consistency is very important to us in the product.
Perfect. I hope that was a good answer for you, Ragnar, and thank you, Thijs and JD, and thank you everybody for today's session. We've just about run out of time, but yeah, as I said at the beginning, any questions you might have, please feel free to reach out to me personally. If you have any questions for Thijs and JD, I can put you in touch with them. And also, as was mentioned in the chat, we will certainly be sharing this the link to this webinar, and we'll put it on our YouTube channel. And yes, please keep in touch, and thank you so much, and have a great day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, certainly looking for use cases, thoughts, ideas. Spit them by us. Love to hear from Mark to see what you guys are thinking.
Brilliant.
That's right.
Thanks, everybody.